So this one. Let's start with the first one. You with the Kado, it's summer 22, right? Question paper 4-1. Starting with the first part, aluminum oxide. Okay, so which one is a reactant in photosynthesis? Like, does anyone know what the equation in photosynthesis is? Mask, what's photosynthesis?
It's like the carbon dioxide plus water.
Yeah,
It
and
goes
they're going
to
to form.
glucose plus
Okay, so it's going to form glucose and
oxygen.
oxygen. Okay, and you need chlorophyll for that, and you need sunlight for that. So the answer to the first one is carbon dioxide. What's the main constituent of bauxite? Bauxite was an ore of what thing?
Aluminum?
Yep, and it was aluminum oxide.
Yes.
It had other metal oxides as well. Fermentation. Do you know what fermentation is? What happens in fermentation? It's got something.
Ethanol and
Yeah, and what fermentation is when you have glucose and you add yeast to it. Absence of air, anaerobic conditions, no. Let me explain the whole thing. It's going to form ethanol and it's going to form carbon dioxide. I think 2 carbon dioxide and 2 ethanol molecules. And anaerobic respiration, and the temperature was at room temperature, 2240 or 25 to 35. Those were the conditions for the reaction. Now, it's used as a fuel. Which one out of these things is used as a fuel?
nitrogen.
What's the fuel?
Nitrogen.
No, ethanol. Ethanol is used as a fuel.
Okay.
And is a gas used to convert iron into steel. So how do you convert iron into steel?
Well, can you repeat that, sir?
How do you convert? What is the gas that is used to convert iron to steel?
Oxygen.
Okay, that's oxygen gas because it removes the excess carbon out of it. Is a greenhouse gas? Which one is a greenhouse gas? There are 2 main greenhouse gases. Do you know which one are your 2 main greenhouse gases?
No, sir.
There's one which is carbon dioxide. Global warming causes global warming, and there's another one which is methane. Methane is a greenhouse gas as well. I'm just going to give you a brief recap. How is carbon dioxide produced? It's produced by combustion of fossil fuels, right? Fossil fuels, they produce carbon dioxide, and you've got methane, which is I can quickly cover one topic, which is pollutants. We'll give a next class, man. We'll try and cover all the pollutants, etc. Right? We'll do that in the next class. Methane is again another greenhouse gas. How is methane produced? It's produced by fermentation, biogas, basically. Fermentation, not fermentation, decomposition. So it's produced by decomposition of vegetable matter. And cows, because there's so many cows are a big source of methane gas. Cow dung, etc., that's used to produce biogas. So it's a big source of methane gas. They're both greenhouse gases. What do greenhouse gases do? They cause global warming. So what are the harmful effects of global warming then? What are the harmful effects of global warming? Glaciers, they melt. Sea levels will rise. And there are unpredictable weather patterns because so the weather would become very, very unpredictable. 78% of clean dry air, what is that?
Nitrogen.
Okay, that's N2 gas. Is a form of carbon. What is a form of carbon?
Diamond.
Okay, that's diamond. Diamond is a form of. What are other forms of carbon?
I think graphite.
So
No,
graphite
wait.
is graphite is a form of carbon. So next one, you've got atoms are made of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Atoms of the same element are known as isotopes. So electron, what is the relative charge on an electron?
-1.
Here, this is 0. The relative mass is 1.
1 and 1.
Not +1, just 1. Sodium, magnesium, sorry, tell me the number of electrons, neutrons, and protons. Electrons, how many electrons?
Electrons is 12.
And neutrons?
12.
Protons is also 12. The other isotope
Yes.
will have the same electrons, the same protons, but how many neutrons? What's 25 minus 12? That's 13, right?
13.
Can you
Yes.
explain why magnesium ions have +2? Have a +2 charge?
Because they have 2 extra electrons in the outermost shell, so they easily lose those.
So they lose 2 valence electrons. So they've got a +2 charge. Give the formula of the following particles that have the same electronic structure as Mg+2. Mg+2 has an electronic structure of 282, right? Give the formula of a cation that has exactly the same electronic structure. The formula of a cation that has exactly the same electronic structure.
So it has to be an isomer, right, sir?
No, it's like ions. A lot of ions have the same electronic structure. A lot of them. You're being asked to figure out. I mean, tell me what's the electronic arrangement of sodium?
Sodium 2.8.1.
1, right?
Yes.
What's the electronic structure of sodium +1?
2.8.
So that's exactly the same, right? So the
Okay.
answer. What about then you're asking for an anion, a negative ion that has the same electronic structure. So what's that going to be?
So that would be like when it's gonna gain 1, right?
Yeah.
So fluorine.
So fluorine is fine. Fluorine would be 9, so that's 2 and 7, but fluorine is -1, so that's also going to become 2 and 8. So that's going to be 2 and 8. As for next one. Question number 3. The question is about sodium and so he's talking about metallic. How do you describe the bonding in a metal? What should I draw? Like, what is metallic bonding? Metallic bonding is when you have a metal, metals like to lose electrons. So there's going to be a lot of metal atoms and they would all be, so they will all be kind of losing electrons, right? So they will all become positive ions. So they're going to all lose electrons. And the electrons will all be roaming around. And these are your delocalized electrons. So that's what metallic bonding is. So it's a regular arrangement of positive metal ions. I mean, this is known as a giant metallic lattice, which is a regular arrangement of positive metal ions in a sea of free moving electrons, delocalized electrons, and there's going to be attraction between the positive ions and the delocalized electrons. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And this entire thing is called a giant metallic lattice. हर दफा एक ही question आता है. You have to answer exactly the same thing when it comes to metallic bonding. As describe how solid sodium conducts electricity. Why does it conduct? What's the answer for that? Why is
It has a free moving electrons.
So it's got free moving or mobile electrons. Okay, that's the answer. Then you've got some properties of sodium chloride are shown. Name the type of bonding in NaCl. Like, it's pretty obvious. What's the type of bonding in NaCl?
Ionic bonding.
Ionic.
Okay, that's ionic. Explain why sodium chloride conducts electricity when molten. So why do ionic compounds conduct when they are molten? Well, ionic bonding में क्यों होती है electric conduction?
Sharing of electrons.
Because they have free moving mobile ions. Okay, remember solids, it's the movement of charges, right? That's what electricity is. Now, when it's a solid, they form an ionic lattice, which is a crystal. It's sodium ions attracted to Cl ions, and then Cl ions are attracted to sodium ions and so on. So it's a big giant crystal, and they're all attracted to each other. But when it melts, the ions are able to move around and melts या फिर aqueous, molten or aqueous के अंदर पानी के अंदर इसको mix करोगे तो ions they dissociate, they get scattered. So they've got free moving mobile ions. As the next one, question number 3. It's a modes question, I think. A student determines the concentration of a solution of dilute hydrosulfuric acid by titration with aqueous NaOH. So he takes NaOH transferred into a conical flask. So there's NaOH in a conical flask. You know कितने moles are NaOH? How do you find moles of NaOH? Like concentration times volume. 0.2 multiplied by 25 divided by. So how many moles is this?
Sir, it is 0.005.
You're getting 0.005 moles. So basically you've got 0.005 moles of NaOH in the flask. And he adds an indicator. He fills the burette with H2SO4. So ऊपर से ना he's adding from the top he's adding ऊपर से वो H2SO4 add कर रहा है, ठीक है? The acid in the burette is added to the conical flask until the indicator changes color and the volume of acid is recorded. The process is known as titration. The titration is repeated several times. Name the piece of apparatus used to measure exactly 20. How do you measure exactly 25 cm cube of NaOH? What is the piece of apparatus? That's going to be pipette, which is like a big dropper. So always use a pipette. How would the indicator change color? Indicator कौन सा add किया? I think he's adding what? Methyl orange, right?
Yes.
So we're adding. So we're adding methyl orange, right? Do you know what the color in alkali is? वो data sheet खोलो अगर याद नहीं है. I mean, this acid base is also only data sheet. Methyl or yellow होता है, alkali में it's yellow और उसमें क्या होता है दूसरे में? Acid में it's going to be red, orange red. ठीक है, that's the color. Methyl orange is red in acid and yellow in alkali or orange yellow in alkali. So we know the color. So right at the beginning, the color is going to be what? It's going to be alkali, so it's going to be yellow. And when the alkali gets neutralized, when all of it is it's neutralized by the H2SO4 that's falling from the top. So acid aa jayega, so it's going to become red orange. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
So how do you determine in a titration that, so why do you have to repeat when you do an experiment? Why do you have to repeat the results?
For more accurate results.
No, not for more accurate results. Why do you repeat experiments? To get more reliable results. मतलब पहला experiment किया हो सकता है गलत हो. There's room for error in the first experiment, right? So maybe you made some big blunders in that. So that's why you repeat it to see if you still get the same result. So remember, you always repeat experiments so that you get more reliable results. अगर वो repeat हो रहा है ना, that means it's kind of if you're getting the same thing the second time and the third time as well. So that means you're getting reliable results. And in titration, you keep on repeating until you get two values that are within 0.1. So you keep repeating. Two values that are within or that have a difference of 0.1 centimeter cube. Is that clear?
Yes.
तो repeatable results जो होते हैं ना, अगर तो वही exact आ गया ना, फिर तो उसका मतलब बहुत अच्छा है. लेकिन even within 0.1, that's still fine. Now, we found the moles of NaOH early on. कितने थे? That was 0.005. We already did that. So we were able to figure out the moles of NaOH early on. We did the calculation, 0.005 moles. So what are the moles of H2SO4? It's 2:1. So half होंगे उसके. What is half of that?
So 5.
ठीक है. Is this clear?
Yes.
And now you have to find the concentration. What's the formula for concentration of sulfuric acid? How do you find concentration?
I think it's mass over volume.
No, concentration. Remember, moles
Number
is
of moles divided by volume.
it's the moles divided by concentration is mole per dmq, so it's literally moles over volume. So we've got 0.0025 moles, right? Divide by the volume. So what is the volume of sulfuric acid? 20 cm3, that's given over here. But it should be in dm3, 20 divided by 1000. So what do you get for this?
Uh, 0.125.
So you're getting 0.125 mole per dm3. That's going to be your answer. Actually, next one question is about compounds of sulfur. Sulfuric acid is manufactured using the contact process. This manufacture involves 4 stages. So this is the contact process. Sulfur is burned in air. Write a chemical equation for the reaction occurring in stage number 1. So sulfur is burnt. Sulfur is burned in air to produce sulfur dioxide. So sulfur is burnt
Plus
in
oxygen.
oxygen and it forms SO2. Do you know what the essential conditions for forming sulfur trioxide is? I mean, stage number 2. Like Haber and
Like
contact.
the temperature and pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 450 temperature and 2 atmospheric pressure.
And it's 2 atmospheric pressure. And there's a catalyst as well, which is B2O5 catalyst. And then you have write a chemical equation for reaction number 3. So he says that sulfur trioxide combines with sulfuric acid to form. So sulfur trioxide is SO3, combines with sulfuric acid, which is H2SO4. And what does it form? It forms, he's given you oleum, which is H2, S2,
O7.
O7. Name the substance that reacts with oleum in stage number 4. So end में ना, the oleum that is formed is diluted.
Water.
with water, and it turns into sulfuric acid. So this is basically the entire contact process, which you have to remember. Sulfur is burned in air, forms sulfur dioxide, which is then reacted with oxygen again to form sulfur trioxide. But for that, you need a catalyst and you need a higher temperature. And then the sulfur trioxide is dissolved in sulfuric acid, which is then diluted to form sulfuric acid. He's asking us to complete the dot and cross diagram to show the electronic arrangement in the molecule of hydrogen sulfide. Now, hydrogen just shares one electron because it only has one electron. So this other hydrogen will also share just one electron because it only has one electron. So sulfur is in group 6. How many electrons are left once the sharing is done? So sulfur group 6 make it 4 bach gaye. So out of 6 electrons, there are 4 left. Balance the chemical equation for the reaction with sulfur. How do you balance this equation?
The hydrogen is balanced. So we need to put a 2 on the right side for the sulfur.
But the oxygen is not balanced.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the oxygen now. Okay, so we put a 2 for the water first.
Okay.
Then we have to put a 2 in front of the H2S. So that makes a 3 sulfur. Now we just put a 1, 3.
Now it kind of looks balanced. State 2 characteristics of an equilibrium. What's an equilibrium?
It's when the forward reaction is the same as the backward reaction.
So the rate of forward reaction
is equal to rate of backward reaction.
What else? Is there any change in concentration of the reactants and products?
No.
So concentration of reactants and products becomes constant. Because the amount that is getting formed is the same amount that's getting used up as well. So there's no change. Now, the purpose of the industrial process is to produce a high yield of ethanoic acid at a higher rate of reaction. The manufacture is carried out at a temperature of 300. So basically the question is, why don't you use a temperature below 300? And he said that the forward reaction is exothermic. He has mentioned that. That means the backward is
Endo.
So why don't you, if you decrease temperature, which reaction would be favored, exo or endo? If you decrease temperature.
Endo.
You decrease temperature, it will do the
It's a
opposite.
decrease. Endo.
So it will try exothermic, right? Which is what? Forward, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of a good thing. You're getting more products. So why don't you use temperature below 300?
It doesn't give like a high yield, maybe. I mean, the rate of reaction.
Yeah, the rate is slow. At a lower temperature, the rate will be slow. So you're going to get more forward reaction, but the rate will be slow. What about higher temperature? Why not use a higher temperature? Which reaction will be favored?
The backward reaction, endothermic, so it's a less lower yield.
So the problem will be that it's not going to be good because lower yield, more backward reaction, right? The rate will be high, but the reaction, it's not going to produce a lot of SO3. Now complete the table using the words increase, decrease, or change. Effect of rate of forward reaction. So if you add a catalyst, what will happen to the rate? Remember the rate, speed, if you add a catalyst.
Increase.
Increase.
Okay, it's going to increase. What will happen if you decrease pressure? What happens to the rate? Particles दूर दूर होंगे, करीब करीब होंगे. Lower pressure.
Closer.
Lower pressure, they'll be further away. Higher pressure, you're bringing them
Oh,
together.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if they're further away, there'll be less collisions, right? So the rate of the reaction will
Decrease.
Acha, but this one, the equilibrium part, decreasing pressure, which side is favored? More gas or less gas? If you decrease pressure, will it
More
try to
gas.
produce more gas, right? So more gas will be on the side with which side? Left side. It's got two particles of gas, right? So it's going to favor the more gas side. So, or it's going to try and produce more gas. So the yield will decrease. There's going to be more backward reaction. So you just have to write the word decrease. Okay, is this clear? Okay, equilibrium में ना pressure, when you have a higher pressure, less gas mole side. Lower pressure, more gas mole side. Higher temperature, endothermic, more temperature, sorry, lower temperature, exothermic. Acha, which one out of these is a suitable catalyst? ये बता दो catalyst होते कौन से?
Like I think one is anhydrous calcium.
पूरे periodic table में which elements are catalyst?
अच्छा.
Transition element.
Transition. Cobalt is a transition element, right? So suitable catalyst is it's going to be cobalt. Why? Because it's a, remember, transition metals are unki property thi, they're very good catalysts. As I said, the general formula of the homologous series, carboxylic acid ki. What's the general formula of a carboxylic acid homologous series?
CnH2n.
Yeah.
0H.
So draw the structure of carboxylic acid containing 3 carbon atoms. So 3 carbon atoms, carboxylic acid में कौन सा functional group होता है? That's every carboxylic acid has this thing. Double bond ON and OH, right? अब इसका मुझे बता दो कि this carbon will have how many H's?
2.
ठीक है, 4 bonds complete करने. So it's going to have 2 H's. This one will have 3 H's, right?
Yes.
So he's saying show all the atoms and the bonds. अच्छा तो एक bond हमने show किया. I'm going to show the OH bond as well, because he said clearly to show all the bonds. I said name the formula of ester. Name ester X. So there's this ester. Ester जो होता है ना, it's got C double bond O and O in the middle. और इस side पे CH3 है, so that's C with 3 H's. Left side पे क्या है? CH2. Then CH2 again. And then you have CH3. So that's the ester. I've drawn the ester. How do you name the ester? Okay, remember, an ester is something that has the C double bond O and O right in the middle. Okay. So the ester is named in 2 parts. One side has 4 carbon atoms, so that's your bute. Bute ka matlab 4 carbon atoms. The other side is 1 carbon atom, so that side is meth. Okay. जो ये वाली साइड होती है, this comes from the alcohol, so that's methyl. नहीं, all नहीं, मतलब वो vial होता है, और जो carboxylic acid वाली साइड होती है, that's the OH side. It's known as OH. तो meth इधर है, bute इधर है. Meth and bute. This is methyl. जो ये वाली साइड, single O वाली साइड. Double bond O side, that's OH. So the name of this molecule is methyl butanoate. ये क्लियर है? और मतलब इसके और एग्जांपल्स भी कर लेते हैं. हर एस्टर को ना इसी तरह नेम करना है, यहाँ पे कर लेते हैं. ठीक है, just remember that every ester is supposed to be named in exactly the same way. कि अगर मैं और कोई एस्टर दूं ना कि what is the name of this ester, ये 3H, ये डैशेस जो है ना इनको H समझो, मैं बस टाइम नहीं लिखने का, तो ये सारे H's हैं. अच्छा, it's an ester, clearly it's an ester क्योंकि it's got a C double bond O and O, right? अच्छा, तो दो में डिवाइड कर लो. इस साइड पे कितने हैं? तीन. तीन का क्या नाम होता है स्टार्ट? 3 कार्बन, राइट? व्हाट इज इट स्टार्टिंग विद?
Pro.
प्रॉप. और ये 2 कार्बन एटम्स है, 2 का क्या होता है? एथ होता है. अच्छा, जो सिंगल वाली साइड है दैट्स वाइल. ठीक है, दैट्स गोइंग टू बी कॉल्ड वाइल, सो इट्स प्रोपाइल, एंड दिस साइड इज गोइंग टू बी कॉल्ड O8 डबल बॉन्ड O वाली साइड, सो द नेम इज प्रोपाइल एथेनोएट. ठीक है, इज दैट क्लियर? और फिर वो कह भी रहा है कि ड्रॉ द नाउ व्हाट. So kind of like rough now organic chemistry की ना we can start with the division of organic chemistry as well. ठीक है, बल्कि वो कर लेते हैं organic chemistry, we can try and cover that. बस ये इस क्वेश्चन के ऊपर हम एंड कर देंगे, ये बस खत्म हो जाए फिर एंड कर देते हैं. Give the name of the carboxylic acid and the alcohol that react together to produce ester X. तो इसको वापस तोड़ दो, ये carboxylic acid से आया था, 4 carbon atoms, double bond O OH, right? और ये वाला पार्ट जो था अल्कोहल से आया था, so it's C with 3 H's and an OH. सारे इसके साथ H है. So butanoic acid, and this is methanol. एक carbon atom, that's methanol. That's 4 carbon atoms, that's butanoic acid. इसका empirical formula calculate, वो organic वाला part तो खत्म हो गया, इसका empirical formula, try and calculate this. How do you calculate empirical formula? Find the moles divided by the atomic masses, which is 12. 8.11 hydrogen क्या होता है? That's 1. 43.24 oxygen क्या होता है? 16. What do we get? इधर फाइंड करो क्या आ रहा है.
The first one is 4.05.
The first one is 4.05. That's 8.11 by.
Yes.
What is the last one?
2.70.
So divide everything by 2.73. What do you get? 2.73 था ना?
मेरा 2.70 आया था.
ठीक है, सारों को 2.73 से डिवाइड करो. What do you get?
Teacher, I got 2.70.
चलो 2.70 से डिवाइड कर लो. What do you get? हाँ, 2.70 है.
For the 8.11, I got 3.
For 8.11, you're getting 3. This is what? This is 1.
And then for 4.05, I got 1.5.
So you're not getting a whole number. How do you change all these numbers, ratios into whole numbers? That's going to be double कर लो.
Just yeah, multiply by 2.
So it's going to be 3 and 6 and 2, right?
Yes.
So C, H, and O, right? So the
Yes.
formula is going to be C3H6O2, right?
Yes.
Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
And then he says that empirical formula. Now he says that there's a molecule that has an empirical formula of this thing. Empirical formula, remember, is the simplest ratio. So what is the mass? That's 12 times 2 plus 4 H's plus 16. क्या आ रहा है? Is that coming out to be equal to 44?
Yes.
ठीक है, so you're getting 44. लेकिन वो कह रहा है उसकी जो molecular mass है that's 88. तो इसका मतलब इट्स गोइंग टू हैव द सेम रेशियो बट डबल कर लो उसे. So C4H8O2. Okay, empirical जो simplest ratio था, that was coming out to be 44. So this one will be the same ratio, but it will be the actual mass is going to be double. इसका मतलब है सारे atoms की जो value होगी ना वो double होगी. Is that clear?
Yes.
ठीक है. चलो ठीक है, कल से मैं कंटिन्यू करते हैं और we can start with organic tomorrow. ठीक है.
Okay.